Pushing the boundaries of expectations, rewriting the rules of adventure are the reasons we get up in the morning. We share your hunger for a life without limits.
Greetings and welcome back to your Kinetic Belief Podcast. And we're so glad to have all of you back with us today. If you'd like to receive an occasional encouraging text message from me, text the word Kinetic to 844-844-0049. StephenCanyon.com is the website. Follow us on Instagram at Stephen Canyon. And also make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss an episode. Make sure you also share it as a way of sharing your light with those that you love. And, another thing, the video of these podcasts is now available on the website at StephenCanyon.com. Maggie, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great, doing really well. I'm still floating from the 26-mile bike ride that you drug me along on yesterday.
Well, with e-bikes, it's not it's not too bad, right?
No, well, not for us. It's not. But
I
how
find myself
beautiful.
enjoying the scenery more.
Absolutely, you're going through it without the stressors of
Breathing.
if your lungs on
Breathing
fire.
is so stressful. No, it was beautiful. It was stunning. It was overwhelming. I love when you go through a really thick patch of pines and it's just Christmas. It just smells like Christmas, like the whole path.
Can you believe that we, in this part of the Rockies, we're only about 3, maybe 4 weeks at the most away from the first snow?
I'm ready.
It's been cold. It's been down in the 30s at night.
I'm ready. I've got we have our snowshoes, our snow gear. We're locked and loaded for winter.
And even so, there's still so many wildflowers in bloom, like you were talking about yesterday, that we could see between here and wherever we went.
That's what I like about the West, though, and especially the high Rockies, because it's all extremes. It's either full-on feet of snow and winter, or spring is just exploding everywhere you look. I love it.
And you know something else? You mentioned the bikes being e-bikes, which is just an electrical bike, but it enables you to quickly get into a meditative pose and stance, right?
Yes.
Just to get away from the noise of the world, and you collect your thoughts into the moment. You are so moment-minded when you are riding a bike or motorcycle or just hiking through the woods, whatever you're doing that's away from the noise. You just transcend all of the things you've been identifying with, the challenges, people, work, just stuff in general, news, and you get away from it and immediately escape into self.
Yes.
And what a perfect way to be able to meditate in a higher way.
Yeah. Well, a natural setting, I always feel like it overwhelms me and almost pins me down and forces me to transcend.
Well, you did a great job, by the way. You really did.
And I have to say the e-bikes are so fun because it's not that you don't have to work. It just takes the amount of work you normally do and it makes it exponential. So you can go much further with the same effort.
And when it comes to bicycling, before I ever rode an e-bike, I got to tell you that I was a purist. I'm like, there is no way that I'm going to replace good old pedal power with something that's electric. And until the first time I got on an e-bike, and I'm like, screw that, screw purity. I'm all about the e-bike.
You're like, do you want my firstborn, my soul? What do you need for this bike to be in my life?
Classically beautiful. And a great way to it. And speaking of escaping, I was just, who's your favorite character from literature?
Oh, this is easy. This is an easy one for me.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I love many books, but there's one that just stays at the top for me. His name, it's spelled, if you read it in normal English, it's Henry, but he's French in the book, and his name is Henri, and it's from Papillon.
Really?
Yes. I love that book. I've probably read that book 5 times, and it's not short.
Why is he your favorite character? Or is that too much to try to
the book is actually an autobiography. It's a collection of journals that he wrote, and it's of his actual life, and I don't even care if he made it up. It's just such a great story.
Well, I agree. I love this story of Papillon, but I'm only familiar with the Hollywood version, the movies that have been made. I think there have been 3 of them made, but I've not read the book.
I actually always wish that they would make one that lives up to the book, but I think that might be impossible, honestly, because the book you would almost have to do what's it called when they do a mini-series?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like a series of maybe 5 2-hour specials or something, because there's there's just so much. It's so many stories in the story. Yeah. I'm saying it like that because I'm thinking, gosh, I should know this, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
It's a good question.
I don't know that you should know it because I'm not quite sure I do.
Okay.
Because I
Got it.
don't read a lot of I read a lot of classic literature, but I also read a lot of the philosophical musings of, just Nietzsche and others. So, but when I think about maybe stories that are inspiring, I think probably it would be a character from Moby Dick, from Melville's Moby Dick.
Really?
But it would be the white whale.
I thought you might say Starbucks.
Because the white whale in the book is seen as representing nature, and I think and a biblical monster. So I think probably the
That's so
whale.
cool. I read that many, many, many years ago, but I truly don't remember anything about it. And so that's fascinating.
Very classic.
The symbolism is in there.
Wow, that's something to think about. I'm going to spend the rest of the day thinking about who my favorite character is. And KBs, if you've got one, I'd love to know who it is for you and your reasoning. Email us. Send me an idea of who inspires you, or at least you find intriguing. Maybe you're not inspired by your favorite character, but you find it very intriguing and entertaining in that sense.
I also in Les Mis, the character of Javert, he's sort of the villain, but I think he has maybe the most interesting story within that story.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's a good point.
Yeah.
They don't have to inspire you.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love this. We could talk about this all day.
Well, because I also like the Tin Men from Wizard of Oz. So who knows where this could go. And speaking of stories, and maybe on a little more serious note, we did get an email over the weekend, or actually I think it was the end of last week, and took a look at it and contacted the young man that sent it in and asked for his permission to share it, and he said absolutely. And so verbatim, pretty much here is the gist of the question that was emailed to us from fellow KB, and he says that, Stephen, truly appreciate the podcast, and he said that I listen to it on a daily basis. He said, but I'm actively doing the work, but it is a struggle for me. He's doing the work of law of attraction. That's what it is. He says, but it's a struggle for him at times because, and certainly more as of lately. And the reason, he said he was a teacher for 21 years and he was overseas for the past 7 years of his career. And then he moved home here to the United States to begin pursuing a passion as a chef, and went into business with a friend of his who he says he trusted. And he said that I knew my business knowledge was very limited, so I was grateful that his friend has an MBA and is knowledgeable. And he said, but I've been in the States for 8 months now, and we've yet to move forward. Yes, my friend bought the food truck, and long before we went into business, and I was led to believe that when I get back to the USA that I will be hitting the ground running and getting everything left to be done, working on things like a marketing plan, creating the menu, analyzing costs and all those things. But he says that now, Glenn is his name, Glenn. Hello, Glenn.
Hi,
Glenn
Glenn
says that now it feels like I left my job and moved over 6,000 miles just to drive for Uber during a global pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And it was even more disappointing to find out that the reason why there was so much opposition and vagueness was that the truck wasn't operational because it was he said, a shady salesman had sold it to him. And then with the friend being a salesman himself, he didn't share everything with him. And right now, Glenn says, my emotions are all over the place because this was my miracle dream. They helped me get out of the dark place I was in. And when I was battling depression, and this apparently lifted up Glenn's hopes. And with all of this, he says, I've been on a spiritual and emotional decline, and I can't get back on track. What do I do? I don't have too many people to talk to. Can you help me out with this? And the big question is, what do I do? I'm very disappointed. I'm very depressed. Don't know where to go from here. and so on and so forth. Well, Glenn, first of all, thank you so much for the question.
Yes.
And you are experiencing something that I think it's not uncommon at all, and especially for those that are beginning to practice the law of attraction and putting your belief and faith and hope and expectations into the possibility of the manifestation of something that has been a lifelong dream of yours. And so, first off, you're not alone in that. And so that's why I wanted to address your situation here on the podcast, because I think a lot of people can probably gain some insight and additional wisdom for their own situation if we can sort of tackle yours here for just a few minutes. And as I have meditated on and thought about some of your questions and some of the concerns that you have, one of the things that stood out, one of the first things that stood out that you said in your correspondence, you said that you'd already started studying and applying the law of attraction before you discovered really, I think it was your passions, or actually, I think you said before you discovered the kinetic belief. That's what you were saying, and you said that you're actively doing the work of kinetic belief, of applying the modalities of your belief. You're actively participating in the manifestation process of realizing your dream come true. And you said that even though you are actively doing the work, you said that it's still a struggle for you at times, and it's even becoming more of a struggle as of lately. But now, finding and living in alignment, Glenn, with first of all, your inner purpose, genius of purpose, finding that which you've done. You've notated that this is a dream of yours, and so much so that you are willing to upend your life and move 6,000 miles back to the U.S. to see the realization and the manifestation of your dream. So living in alignment with your expectations is something that you're obviously willing to do, and with your inner genius of purpose, because, and that is so vital, first of all, to you ultimately manifesting your success in your dream, because that's the foundation for fulfilling your outer purpose. And it is the basis for all true success, regardless of who you are. You can look successful to the rest of the world, but if you're not manifesting your dream, if you're not manifesting your genius of purpose, then you truly are not successful. And you're just living a reflection of someone else's or even your ego's expectations for you. So without the alignment, which you're willing to do, without aligning with that genius of purpose, you can still achieve certain things through effort. You can achieve many things through struggle. You mentioned so much of your life now being a struggle. You can achieve things through struggle, and even through determination and just sheer hard work, sweat of the brow, hard, cunning kind of labor every day. But there is no joy in those kind of endeavors. And all of that just invariably ends in some form of suffering, which you're already indicating that you are in the midst of. So, Glenn, every ego, everybody has an ego, which is identifying with circumstances, identifying with friends and vehicles and trucks and dreams, and identifying with the empirical forms of the world around them. Every ego is continuously struggling for survival. It wants to live. It wants to continue. And so in the struggle for survival, it's trying to protect and enlarge itself. And so to uphold I thought we were going to get a truck. I thought I was going to be working on recipes. I thought this was going to work out for me. I moved 6,000 miles. I am here to do the work. All of those I's that the ego is identifying with needs the opposite thought of the other. The conceptual I, in other words, it cannot survive without the conceptual other. And so the others are most predominantly other when you can see them as your enemy. When you have a truck that does not meet your expectations, when you have a friend that perhaps withheld things from you, when you can make a an adversary out of something other than yourself, then you are continuing to inflate and keep the ego of what you're identifying with alive. So what does this mean for you? What is the outlook approach for someone who is building up the ego? One of the things that one will do is complain. Complaining is one of the ego's most favorite go-to strategies for strengthening itself. Every complaint is just a little story that the mind makes up that you completely believe in. And if you believe in the story that the mind is making up, it's displacing a belief, a higher viewpoint that you would have had, perhaps you've journaled, that you're dreaming about, of operating your own business, being in business with a partner, having a successful food business as a chef, working as a chef, and all those things. But when you identify with the little stories that the mind's making up, you're displacing the kinetic belief. Whether you complain out loud or only in thought, it really makes no difference. Because some egos that perhaps don't have much else to identify with very easily survive on complaining alone. And so it's an easy place to go and to fall into the temptation of being a complainer to build up the opposition.
I have to say, I find a lot of inspiration in the question that Glenn has posed, just the question itself, because what he has described is a massive shift and even upheaval in life, but he has this awareness of his emotions that I think is really wonderful. And it's the hallmark of a true kinetic believer. When anything in life can happen, and yet you're able to step back and observe your emotions enough to even ask and pose this question, I think is really powerful.
Because you see the emotion as a negative thing, then you go, okay, wait a minute, time out. Something is not working right. Because if you observe the emotion and it's negative, and you allow that to also dictate your feelings about the enterprise, then you're being led by your feelings and emotions, and that means you're off course from manifesting your kinetic beliefs. Yeah. Glenn said that he left his job, moved 6,000 miles, just to drive for Uber during a global pandemic. And he said it was even more disappointing to find out that the reason why there was so much opposition in vagueness was the truck wasn't operational yet, which means that talking about feelings and emotions, Glenn, you're continuing to be led by feelings and emotions rather than by the substance of your kinetic beliefs. And that is the first fundamental problem in the issue that you're having with where you are in life right now. You're measuring the perceived reality of where you are by how you feel and by the emotions rather than your chosen beliefs. The primary factor in all of this is your state of consciousness, in that the only reality of your desire must be that everything is working toward the manifestation that you dream of. It's all working toward that. And no thing that you can see is the dream until the dream has been manifested. If something doesn't look like it, just be grateful that you're being protected from something that's not it. And that's key.
There's a big part of this question that I find highly relatable, because when you are, a manifesting machine, you have been working kinetic belief like there's no tomorrow, and you've been doing this law of attraction thing, and all of a sudden the very specific thing that you were believing for seems to show up. But then you realize it's almost as if it was a mirage and it wasn't real. And I think that can really feel emotionally, or even physically, feel as though it was a tease. It feels a little dishonest. It feels a little almost manipulative, like the universe pulled the rug out from under you. Because when you see something you were so specifically seeking, and then you realize it wasn't what you thought, how do we specifically overcome that emotion, that nuance of this question? Because I relate to how difficult that would be, because again, it's exactly what you thought was coming toward you.
If something doesn't look like it, be grateful that you're being protected from something that's not it. It doesn't matter if you wanted something that was blue and it shows up and it's red. If it's not exactly like you had imagined it to be grateful that you're being protected from it. There are so many variations on a theme. that are not the theme, that can look like it, but it's not it. And that doesn't mean that the thing that's not it should have been it. It just means it's not it. When I first began...
That is so good. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but that just really slapped me across the face. That just because it should have been, it doesn't mean it is. I mean, that's really, it's easy to slip into that mentality like, oh, it's done. It showed up. I'm done.
And you slip into mentality, and then all of a sudden you're allowing the disappointment to be the thing. Wow. And rather than the thing being the thing. Disappointment is never it. Yeah. Disappointment is just an emotional response to being disappointed. It's like getting your birthday is on Wednesday this week, and you get up on Tuesday and you're disappointed it is not Wednesday. It still doesn't make it your birthday. You're going to have to wait one more day right. for the truth of your birthday to manifest.
Yes.
When I first began a provisional outreach to children living in poverty on Native American reservations and in some of the remote areas of Appalachia, it was about 20 years ago. And you were involved. I think you came in on the scene, Maggie, just maybe a few months after this particular thing happened. And we've even talked about it on the podcast before. Yeah. But the outreach was growing at just a tremendous rate, and we built a facility. And to accommodate the trucks coming and going and the distribution of all of this food and I think it was 5,000 at that time, tons a month of provision that was being distributed to Western American Native reservations and throughout Appalachia. But we had a facility that was built up, and the crowds were becoming massive, and I was teaching kinetic belief, and we're doing this distribution and all this energy. And the fire marshal comes in one day with a consortium. There's like 5 of them. They come in, their arms folded, and they look at the hundreds and hundreds of people that had congregated there and that we were teaching, and and they just said, "This is too big. This is a quote. It said, Stephen, you're too successful, and we're going to have to close you down. It's too hazardous. The facility can't accommodate this number of people." And at that time, we had some of the other members of the board that were there and heard the same remarks. And after all was said and done, the evening was over and everybody was gone. And there's 5 of us standing there, and the other 4, I wish you could have seen their faces, just long, depressed, disappointed, upset. It's not what they had wanted. It's not what we had talked about. The dream seemed to have come to a close. They felt depressed. They were emotionally upset, and arms proverbially up in the air. Well, we're finished, Stephen. That means we have to close it up and we're all done. This has been fun, but gosh darn it is not what we had hoped for. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys. This is great news. What are you talking about? This is good news. I am so grateful they came in and they shut us down. That means the best is yet to come. That means this is not the manifestation of the imagination and the desire of what we've been grateful for. This is not what we've been talking about. This is not what we're putting our work toward. Well, what do you mean? Because they came in and they stopped it, and I'm grateful they stopped it. That means that something better and bigger is coming. Well, sure enough, fast forward, too many details to go into it all now, but 12 months after that, and contractors coming and volunteers coming into place, quadrupled in size, and to which even today we're continuing to do the distribution through those efforts to those that need it and all the children. But the point of it is that by remaining steadfast toward the vision, kinetically believing for the manifestation of what we were desiring, to be able to take care of, and the way that we could take care of so many families in that manner, being willing to stand forever. You don't ever have to stand for long. And if it's not what you imagined, then that's not what you imagined. And it's no place do you displace what you imagine with what you can see until it perfectly aligns with what you've been imagining to gratefully receive. Then you have the manifestation. And in the meantime, get out of the business of taking measurements with feelings, taking measurements from friends, taking measurements from authorities that say you can or you cannot. All of that stuff, those are all from the empirical forms of the world around you, and they have nothing to do with you as a manifesting, creative creator, calling things that be not into existence. And until you see the manifestation of that, you're still in the process of receiving. And when somebody comes in and says, this is not it, that's good news. It's not bad news. When the truck breaks down, that's good news because that's not the truck and you're closer to the truck that it's supposed to be. And so you stand your ground and you continue to be grateful, practicing the modalities of kinetic belief.
When you see the things that you're believing for start to show up, you're in your manifestation mode and it's happening. And then, just like the story you just told, resistance to, what you think is resistance, shows up to the dream that you're wanting to achieve. It feels like you're being tested. It feels like the universe is testing your resolve and testing your commitment to this dream and this vision. And I'm wondering, is that actually happening? Or does it just feel that way?
Yeah, the universe will never test your dream. The universe, all it knows to do is to manifest it. Now, the testing is in the empirical forms. It's the heat being applied to the substance that you're creating. It's like a recipe. And the heat that when you see something start to boil in its form before it becomes what you've imagined it to be, it's just resistance. And it's going through the heat process of becoming what you imagine it to be. And you don't stop it in the middle of the process, fold your arms and go, well, darn it, I am so disappointed that it's not here now. Well, it's not finished. And so you're in the process. Glenn, you're in the process of seeing your dream come true, and seeing these things start to show up is good news, not bad news. It may appear to be broken. It may look like there is a fundamental flaw in the way that your friend with the MBA is going about rolling this out. Maybe it has nothing to do with him being part of the finished product. Who are you or I to say? The universe knows exactly your heart's desire. And I'll tell you this. If you stay in there and you continue to put action toward what you're believing, it will be in a form that's far greater than anything you can think or imagine when you do see it manifest.
When you're experiencing this sensation, like you perfectly described in the empirical world, resistance, what seems like resistance, would it be okay for us to take that as a sign that we're close? That we're close to breakthrough, that we're close to the going from the unseen into the seen realm. Is that okay,
yes.
Or
yeah.
is that presumptuous?
You will never see the form of the car show up in the middle of the forest unless you see, first of all, bolts and springs and greasy parts and all the things that are not the car assembled. Until you go through the process, it's going to be, everything will be fragmented. And it's your ability to gratefully continue to be positive through those fragmented representations of the whole that guarantee you get there. The full, whole manifestation, perfectly completed as it should be, never shows up day one. It's fragmented. And if you look at those fragmented pieces as the end result, you'll always be disappointed and then be led away from your dream through the disappointment.
I have a question about the story, the analogy that you gave from your own life. If in that moment when the fire marshal wanted to shut you down, if you had chosen to go with the majority opinion and become negative, become depressed, would that have literally changed the course of that outreach program and your involvement? Would it have actually changed everything?
Yeah, if I had chosen to align in agreement with the state of depression and disappointment, I would have manifested exactly what I was depressed and disappointed about. What you're saying is that if you're disappointed, I believe in the thing that's causing my disappointment, and the universe's job is to continue to manifest into your existence the brokenness or the depletion of your dream, to make sure that your belief to be disappointed continues to be the thing that you live through, that you manifest. You have the authority, Glenn. You have the dominion, Glenn. And then your emotional state is simply a measurement of what you expect to see. If you are disappointed, that means you're communicating to the universe that your disappointment is exactly what you expect. If you, regardless of what you see, you remain excited and grateful for what you imagine to see, the universe's job is to make sure that you manifest the thing that you're grateful for. You have the final say, and you're the final authority as to what you're going to see show up in your life.
The way that you're describing this, it's really igniting a fascination with the different parts of the kinetic belief manifesting journey. Because when you are presented, you have all this manifesting momentum, what you're describing, and then this resistance seemingly shows up, which it's really just an opportunity, isn't it, for us to decide which way we're going to go. But I think it's interesting that in those moments, the stakes are much higher, because when you're first starting out, it's almost as if one day you believe this, the next day you believe that. Your momentum isn't very strong. You don't have a lot to lose. But when you've been all in on this thing for months and even years, and you're at this pinnacle moment, and then you're presented with the opportunity to sow in disbelief, the stakes are much higher at that time. And just like with you, in your story, your analogy, you could have pulled the rug out from under a massive, impactful future.
Well, one of the things you just said, Maggie, that I think is really vitally important is to say that I am all in. Well, what does it mean to be all in? That means that there's not an alternative. There is no double-minded approach to this thing. No matter what anybody says or anybody does, I don't care what it looks like at any given moment. That has nothing to do with where I am headed, with where I am going, because I'm all in. All in means all in. There's no variation on this theme. And this representation of whatever this is, if it's not part of my all in, if it's not in alignment with what I've chosen to believe, it has nothing to do with my being all in. But this is the thing. You got to make sure that the present moment that you're in, Glenn, right now, driving for Uber or not, whatever, wherever you are with whatever you're doing, your attitude in the present moment at all times must be that, you know what, all is well. In alignment with my articles of faith, all is well. It's working for me. It's coming for me. It's manifesting for me. So all is well, and I trust that. And within the substance of this chosen belief, which has substance now, it's a very real thing. It's tangible, quantitatively tangible. Your dream is your friend, not your enemy. Wow. And so if you find yourself in disappointment at all, I can just tell you that you need to check your love walk for yourself. You need to check the unconditional love that needs to be the lens for yourself, for your original authentic self, and the lens for everything and everybody else around you, regardless of what they're demonstrating or saying, has nothing to do with the way that you're going to maintain your position of unconditionally loving all things, because you're attached to what you see. You're attached to what you believe, and that is what defines you. And if you look at something and say, well, that's wrong, and you attach yourself to that being wrong, that defines you as a negative thing, and energetically you said you've been studying the law of attraction, then you understand, Glenn, that you're now attracting negative outcome to your imagination. You've aligned with negative source energetics, with what you determined to be. This is negatively affecting my life, and so you're going to attract the negative results of that. You
recently posted, you wrote a new blog, and I loved the blog. It was a wonderful, it was sort of like you gave us the pitfalls that you can fall into on your manifesting journey. You gave us 5 of them. And one of them was talking about source, and how when you step into disbelief, all of a sudden your attachment to source changes. And I'm wondering how that plays into Glenn's question here, because you just spoke about trusting the source, trusting the universe, that it has what you're believing for. And so I'm wondering what this process tells us about source.
Yeah, it's trusting in you being the masterpiece that was ingeniously imagined to be successful with a purpose in his life. And part of that is in recognizing and believing this, Glenn, that you have creative authority. And that it's what you say about what you're going to experience that will determine what you're going to experience. But to do this, you have to honor source. You have to honor your chosen beliefs by giving your chosen beliefs your fullest attention, not just partly. Not just when you're maybe writing in your journal in the morning and then you go and give your undivided attention to broken down equipment or promises that don't seem to be coming through like you'd hope them to be. Your fullest attention is on your Creator, on God, on Source. Your fullest attention is on your chosen articles of faith, your beliefs. And you appreciate Source and your beliefs by being thankful for all and becoming internally aligned with it by allowing it to be as it is, not represented as something that it's not. And so this is a mindful daily choice that, you know what, I'm going to cast down negative imaginations. I am not going to entertain them. If it's negative, I'm not going to think about it because it has nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And it's just the ego trying to redirect your attention away from the dream that was inserted and actually sewn into your soul by Source, by your Creator.
You know, the deeper you lead us into this explanation today, the more excited I am for Glenn because it seems like everything that you're saying, it means he's that much closer to the dream. But also I find that when something finally pops through for us and we can see it, it's always beyond the imagination. And I think that's why I know I have to always work to stay flexible and imagine a thing, but then know that it's going to be different but better. And so I'm so excited for the future where this vision is concerned. Yeah,
Glenn keeps showing up in gratitude. It could be across the street from where the broken truck has been parked, that the great perfect truck exists. You don't know. But by showing up, you are putting action to your faith, action to your belief. And the universe responds positively to it every single time. And if it does not work for you, Glenn, you'll be the first person in the history of planet Earth that it did not work for you. And I would say go write a book on why the law of attraction is a phony, not working, not to be believed process. You'll be the first because it works, and it is not a respecter of persons. It works for everybody that continues to keep their gratitude in their action, with their imagination and their desire and the words that they're speaking positive. And you get up every day with a bounce in your step, refusing to look back to yesterday. And refusing to redefine, your job, driving for Uber or whomever, as a negative thing, but as a positive thing, because you don't know, maybe the next person that gets into the car with you has exactly what the universe is trying to get to you. Mm-hmm. So this is advancing you. Something brought you 6,000 miles. Something has put you into the position that you're in. You're on your way. You're not at the end of this. And so you cast down the negative stuff and be grateful for the movement that you're experiencing every single day. Mm-hmm. And in that gratitude, the universe is going to manifest exactly what you imagine to believe into your life. Look, the evolutionary process of reawakening, and that's what all KBs are doing. We're going through a process of reawakening to higher consciousness. It is vital to advancing your mind, body, and soul toward perfected completion. Every single person on planet Earth is a spiritual being having a natural experience, Glenn. And so as long as the lower nature of a person is identifying with the illusory of natural experiences, broken down things and disappointments, the essence of their higher being simply remains dormant, remains locked within. The philosopher Nietzsche wrote, if truth can be achieved at all, he said that it can only come from an individual who purposefully disregards everything that is traditionally taken to be important. And he said that such a superhuman person can live this authentic and successful human life. And he's talking about the law of attraction. He's talking about being able to meditatively see what you believe. Albert Einstein became one of the most famous people on the planet, and even so, he never identified with the image the world had of him. And he could have. He could have stepped right into that celebrity status, but he didn't do it. And he remained unattached to the illusory of ego. And so in response to the attention that he attracted all over the world, he said that there is a grotesque contradiction between what people consider to be my achievements and abilities and the reality of who I am and what I am capable of. He did not attach himself to the illusory. And as such, he was able to continue to imagine, to believe, and to receive in alignment with higher consciousness the perfected genius of purpose that he came into the natural to manifest. Glenn, awareness is power. Awareness contains so much power. And the use of ego as a tool and to be able to properly identify with who you are releases the power of your authority and the power really of your true identity, the essence of which is the abundant, flourishing life, which is a guarantee for you. And by observing your higher purpose and your proper conscious alignment, by doing that, everything else becomes easy. And it's not a struggle anymore. Higher consciousness uses the universe to move in on your situation and on your circumstances to begin chiseling away at all of those strongholds, all of those things that in the illusory appears to be the thing that you've been imagining to see. It starts chiseling away and all that stuff just dissolves. All of that stuff begins to melt away. And all of the negative influences, and in your case, even influencers, all of those narratives that have somehow redefined your identity through the lens of all of the negative reasonings that you mentioned in your email to us. The reasons why. All of that stuff begins to just melt away. And the creative power of your belief, I want you to know something, Glenn. It is always at work. It doesn't rest. It continues to do what it's supposed to do even while you're sleeping. As long as you lie down at night with a grateful heart and you get up in the morning again with gratitude on your lips. And you speak that positivity and you become a demonstration of that by allowing your light and love to be seen by all others. And it becomes impossible to speak negatively because you recognize that every time you do, you are telling the source of your expectations to stop, for the universe to stop moving what your expectations into existence. The law of attraction is responding to you. And if you go negative, it stops. And if you remain positive, it keeps working. It keeps working and to serve you in that way. But you know something, without knowledge, Maggie, most people they don't ever make it in this life. Without knowledge, people just perish right there on the hillside of enlightenment. And that's just a place where very little attention has been given to the voice of higher consciousness. And like we were talking about in a podcast recently, the voice of higher consciousness is like the sound of many rushing waters. It is continuously speaking to you. Yes. But people don't ask questions of it, and they don't pay attention to it. And so as a result of that, their misguided attentiveness just wreaks havoc in every direction of their life and destruction from the afflictions of being double-minded about their hopes and expectations. And in those misgivings of double-mindedness, everything collapses. Nothing seems to work out. The optics of your expectations, Glenn, determine the circumstances of your life. The universe, it's abundantly furnished to be able to give you everything that you could ever gratefully desire or even fearfully dread. But the choice is always yours. Whatever it's going to be is what you're going to be ultimately experience. What we're talking about here, Maggie, is the wisdom of the higher order. And that's a marvelous thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Just the wisdom of counsel. Could you imagine existence without knowing who you are, whose you are, or where to go to receive counsel other than home, to family or brothers or to the next door neighbor? But wisdom of higher order is this amazing thing because when a person aligns with the light of life, and that's what we're doing, 10,000 stories, could have been narrated 1,000 different ways. All of that fades to no effect. Fables that the ego has been identifying with, all of that dissolves from presence. And it's alignment with source, alignment with one love, alignment with all of life, alignment with positive energetics, with higher consciousness that is achieved by the awakening and by the intentional casting down of egoic imaginations that will tell you that you're a failure, that your dream will never come to pass, that the law of attraction is not working for you, that whatever it is not going to work out. And so when a person identifies with source, when they align with God, their new identity, it's not actually new, by the way. It's simply enlivened. You've successfully been able to rewild yourself back to the beginning, to begin manifesting the genius of purpose that you came into the natural to be able to experience.
I feel like the vital truth that I'm taking away today is you've helped me, and I'm sure everyone else, align with the importance of true highest self and identity, because a moment ago, I felt like you were leading us into the idea that not only is it dangerous to identify with disappointment, but it's equally as dangerous to make your identity a success, because we're so much more than our plateaued successes in the empirical form that you pointed out. We're more than the disappointments, but we're more than the successes. The true sense of self and the highest self explodes all of that out of the way. And it's the genius of purpose. It's the creator within us. It's our connection to the highest creator and the highest consciousness that is what our experience here is truly about. And when we plug into that, that's where it's at. That's where the ultimate experience is.
That's so true, Maggie, because when you're using the ego to identify with failure or to identify with success, then you're still setting yourself up for failure, because the ego is there to be used as a tool to identify with being light and being love. And the rest of it is the entertainment of the intellect. The rest of it is to be able to enjoy the adventure of pursuing something that you're curious about. And if it's to become a chef in any situation, it's the pursuit of that dream and the manifestation of it, and it enlarging your territory in that experience. That is success. Light and love promote the essence of the quickened state of being in the presence of your present tense moment. That is success. That is a transcendence version of what it means to be successfully enlivened or living and experiencing life in its fullness. Because the soul is transcending egoic awareness, and the results are always immediate success. It's not measured by how much money is in a bank account. It's not measured by the size of a restaurant or anything. Success is immediate when the soul transcends egoic awareness. Immediate. Light and love then attracts more of the substance of light and love, and instantaneously, then an enlightened person who is successful, they begin attracting the manifestations of their genius of purpose, and then all of life is as it should be all the time.
Wow, this is so exciting, this concept. We are kinetic believers, and we're carrying that identity with us in this huge, explosive, powerful way in the present moment at all times. I was painting over the weekend, and at one point I thought, wow, this really sucks. This is a terrible painting. And it's just because it was too early. I hadn't really gotten into the detail, but I do remember I had a moment of wanting to quit, and I thought, and I had this, I don't think I had this thought. I think something spoke it to me, but it was basically the concept of, hey, you're a painter, you're an artist, no matter what this looks like. So I love that, overlaying that with kinetic belief. Look, we're kinetic believers no matter what the process looks like. That does not change our identity. It doesn't change who we really are. And I just think that's incredibly comforting and very powerful, because that means we're completely disconnected to even what we are experiencing.
And it's being positive-minded. That is directing your attention toward higher source that enabled you to hear those encouraging words of wisdom coming from the sound of many rushing waters from within.
Yes.
And then that in alignment with that voice of positivity, then the expression of your creation was immediately successful in that transformation. A treasure of creative manifesting power is hidden within every single person.
Wow.
And it's an energy source that is far more influential to rearranging life, actually, than the splitting of an atom. Because the good news is the treasure is not hidden from you. It's actually been secreted away within you just for you. But you have to go there to see. You have to go there to be willing to say, you know what? I do have authority. I am special. I am unique. And I'm not a victim to anything in the limited perspective of what can be seen. No, I am here to achieve and to be able to realize and be the fullest expression of the original intention of me.
Wow.
Well, let's work on some more highest viewpoints. Let's add to the list
I'm
here.
pretty jazzed up already.
When we do this, and I think it's important that everybody realize, when we do these highest viewpoints, the way that we do them and the way that we speak them aloud, while speaking these affirmations, we're visualizing our reality and reconstructing what we imagine to see through the things that we're saying here intentionally. And by doing so, you're activating creative authority into the natural. Believe it when you say these highest viewpoints. Believe it and adhere to it and rely on it as your truth, as your reality. And believe it with gratitude from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And just say this out loud. Say the positive, creative substance of my words are flowing into my surroundings. Everywhere I go. The strength of my joy. Creates things from my words. Inspiring the life around me that I can see. The substance of my words. Bring healing. The substance of my positive words. Are aligning circumstances. To reflect what I expect. The positive energetics. Of my words. Are advancing my mind. My body and soul. Toward perfected completion. And right now, in this moment, today, where I am, I am using the abundant supply that's filled within the universe. With the substance of my every need. And I'm drawing it toward me. I am attracted by the beauty of creation. Of which I am a part of. And the beauty of creation is also attracted to me. And I'm advancing my mind, body, and soul. To be perfectly aligned. With the positive words that I speak. And I imagine that what I'm creating with the substance of my words. Is benefiting me. And all others. And today. I'm unwrapping my genius of purpose. A little bit more. Which is a gift to the world. And I am overflowing. With the miraculous. Positive. Masterpiece. Genius. Abundance. Of me.
Wow. Thank you so much, Glenn, for sparking this conversation and for being a part of the KB family. I just love everyone so much. And can't you feel them, Steve? I just feel them, all the listeners, and I'm just so grateful for this time and this sacred space that we get to have together.
Yeah, and I want everybody right now, all of us together, to send out much light and much love to Glenn and all the other KBs all around the world.
Thanks as usual, Steve, for all the wisdom.
Bye.